Men get sexually abused in relationships too. IF25 hooked up with that guy, M27, and I made him come from a blowjob. He came really hard, so of course, I was pleased with myself and very happy for him. Then he told me that it was his first blowjob in 3 years. It was the first time he allowed someone to go down on him. 2. He didn't lose his erection. 3. He was able to come from head. I learned that he was in an abusive relationship for 2 years. His ex would throw things at him. Knives, plates, frying pans. She would threaten to ruin his life if he'd leave, and she secretly got off the pill to trap him into having a baby with her. She would force him to have sex. At one point, she was so out of control that she bit him. She bit his ballsack so hard that he passed out from the pain. He ended up in hospital. Since then, he's been too traumatized to let any girl go down on him, or he'd go flaccid from the deeply rooted fear. I had no idea. He only told me about it after I'd done it and he came. Apart from not being able to comprehend how someone can be so cruel to want to hurt their partner so much and actually do it, I also can't get over the fact that it's never spoken about. We almost never hear about men being abused and staying in abusive relationships. Men being forced into sex. Men being abused in bed and traumatized for life. Disclaimer, I know women are victims too, likely in the majority. I just wanted to raise this issue, since it's never spoken about, and men don't seek help. That guy never told anyone about it, not even his next girlfriend. He just bottled it up and resorted to indifference and suffering in silence. And he didn't get a blowjob for 3 years, because he never sought help. Because of the stigma? Why aren't we addressing these issues? Why aren't women held accountable too? I was never sexually abused, but an ex of mine was physically abusive and would hit me. She went so far as to slap the shit out of me in front of a bunch of people once. The worst part was that several onlookers laughed. I'm so sorry you went through that. Glad to hear she is now an ex. You deserve way better. Yup, it's amazing that our society just doesn't see it as very bad when a woman is slapping a guy around. Too many of those candid camera YouTube videos show that rarely will a person stop a woman assaulting a man, but if it's the other way around, someone will usually step in fairly quickly. I hate to say it too, but when I imagine seeing those scenarios in my head, I probably wouldn't get involved either with the man getting slapped around. I'm really sorry that happened. Nobody should ever laugh at violence to either sex, as it's just not funny at all. I, F30s, had a male roommate, and my sister's ex, in my teens, beat me in a room full of people so badly I had to get my head shaved from all the bald spots where he kept yanking me up by my hair to punch my face/head some more. My face was black, blue, and purple for weeks after, but the most painful thing was not one person, male or female in the room, said anything or tried to help me. The reason I got beat so badly, he's schizophrenic and I was coughing too much. Ed just moved in with him after escaping a violent foster home and sleeping rough on the streets, so wasn't in the best health. Anyway, again, I'm sorry you had to put up with that shit, and I really hope you have either met someone who treats you like a king, or I hope you're happily single. Either way, know that it wasn't your fault, and fuck those that enable it by laughing. My boyfriend had this same experience. He warned me before sex the first time that he's been trained to be a giver. I didn't know what this meant. Well, turns out he's never received a blowjob, was only valued for oral or making his partner come. He's had quite a few sexual partners, and he even has trauma relating to having a certain ex strangle him while she was coming and bruising him. It made me want to crumble, and I still can barely deal with that information, but that's why I want sex to be so special for him. All the blowjobs, all the fun positions, letting him know he's loved, even when we are going to Pound Town. Men can be sexually abused, and I wish he wasn't so emasculated by sharing it with me. The great thing is that I can be better than them and enjoy great healthy sex with him, and that makes me so happy. You sound like an amazing person who is doing her best to treat him to all the things he missed out on. I wish you both all the happiness. My mom abused my dad. It doesn't get better if you get married or when you have kids. It just gets worse and worse and worse until your kids have to see that shit. Not fun. Especially the shame that my dad now feels because he thinks that he has to be ashamed because he should have defended himself. It's something that needs to be discussed. Absolutely. My ex used to threaten to tell my family/friends that I was a rapist if I wouldn't come over. Once that she would continue this and also shout about hurting herself if we didn't have macup sex. It was awful. The whole experience was a bloody nightmare. The last day of our final breakup she cried for 8 hours. I sat with her the whole time. She then proceeded to bang my boss. I'm a sex almost everyday kind of guy. A giver. I'm not holding out by any stretch of the imagination. I'm almost a sex addict. And still, I can't tell you how many times I have said, "Hey, I'm tired," or "I can't right now," and the response I heard was, "But you're getting hard, so you must want it," and she proceeds to do whatever she wants. Multiple women, different relationship types. Sure, I could stand my ground, but who needs the emotional torture that comes for months afterwards? Seriously, one of my exes just stopped having sex with me completely after I said no once. A friend of mine had his brother commit suicide due to an abusive female partner, and she basically ruined his life. He was heartbroken about it, and it went on for months. You never know until it's too late, because half the time, when a male speaks out about it, they get shut down. Some sad shit. Thank you for the acknowledgement. I had a one-sided sexual relationship when I was younger. I'd call it unfair, not necessarily abuse. I took to calling her Saj. It's one thing to know what you like and what gets you off, and making sure your partner is attentive to that, but treating your partner like a jerk if he's not following every command and spreadsheet you've provided is unacceptable. Thank you for sharing. It's awful that this happens, and it's even worse that men don't seek help. Also, let us not forget, men can be raped as well. While people might be like, oh well, how can it be rape? If a female rapes a man, rape is rape, no matter who it is. I've had an ex who tried to baby trap me as well. I sought therapy and I feel like I'm better for it. Also, being open with subsequent partners lead to a better sexual relationship in general. You know what happens when you seek help? Your friends mock you. Your family probably doesn't believe you, or thinks that you must have deserved it. The police ignore you, or arrest you, because your spouse lies and says you started it, and they believe her, even though you're the one with bruises. Social workers think you're lying, or setting up some angle to get custody or a favorable divorce. Do you know how many domestic abuse shelters that accept men in the United States? Exactly 1. Note, as of 6 years ago, when I needed one. It was probably the 10th police visit in 3 months before I had a cop that listened to me, and she only did because she heard my ex credibly threaten to kill me, which she wasn't arrested for, but W/E. And if you complain online, as often as not you'll get called a misogynistic liar and or lumped in with the MRA or MGTOW movements. Yeah, and people always complain and say stuff like men should share their feelings. We only don't, because we know it's worse for us if we do. The only place where it's truly possible is in small male-only friend groups with guys you've grown up with, and then it's hard, since men usually learn to keep it to themselves. Always no one know exactly how to deal with the situation, except buying a round of beer for the guy and go grilling with a group. While very different from what most people think of, I was once sexually assaulted. A girl who liked me wanted to hang out. I made it very clear I was only interested in being friends, and she purposefully got me very drunk. She lied significantly about the alcohol content of the drinks she was serving. I woke up incredibly hungover, to the point it took a minute to remember why anyone else might be in my bed. I had zero recollection of anything after the second drink, or of anything else that happened. The thing is, it was me that felt bad about it. That I'd had too much to drink and took advantage of a situation. We dated for several months, strictly because I felt bad. She only came clean about it a couple of years later, when she reached out to say hello, and I told her I wasn't interested in talking. She said that she'd come over that night, specifically to get me drunk, thinking I was just being overly cautious or something, and that once she'd gotten me into bed, I'd be hooked. I still felt like I'd been the one making the bad decisions. It was a few more years before it occurred to me that I'd been sexually assaulted. Interesting post. It's unique of you to hold this perspective. I was at a party and physically fought someone off that I didn't want to have sex. As in, grabbed her wrists and held them behind her back to stop her from tearing my pants off. She went limp, gave up, stormed out of the room, and then proceeded to scream for help that she was physically attacked. Fortunately it was my party and my friends, so a few guys only casually came over and asked what happened versus getting mauled by the mob. On another occasion, it didn't go as well. I was quite literally in the bathroom and a girl walked in and locked the door. She grabbed my dick and gave me head. My pants were already open. I repeatedly said no, tried pushing her off, but then orgasmed. Honestly didn't know what to do other than tell her to fuck off and walk out. Had I been a woman I would have been entitled to be physical in order to defend myself. The mindfuck being, can you imagine? Had I punched her to stop, I would have been perceived as a criminal. However, what if I was a woman and punched someone attempting to rape me, let alone during or after the act? Never shared this with anyone. I dated a girl once for 2 years, and for the first 6 months she was the sweetest girl. Sex was mind-blowingly awesome, all that fun stuff, and out nowhere she started sleeping at her friend's house a few towns away and wouldn't come home for days, sometimes without even a call, and I would get worried. After a month of this happening I questioned her about it, and she straight up screamed at me, told that I was a horrible person for not trusting her, and that she loved me so much and she would never hurt me because of how much she loved me, and I needed to trust her. She needed me time, and I was totally fine with that. Then it started that she would only have sex with me on nights she was either fucking wasted out of her mind, or if I took her out to a nice dinner, or on days I bought her nice things then she would disappear again. And on other nights she would come home crazy drunk, pass out, and wake up in the middle of the night and start having sex with me, and she would wake up halfway through doing it and say I was raping her when she was the one on top riding me, and she would leave in the middle of the night and drive off. I didn't understanding what was happening at all. I didn't even know how to talk about it with my friends. I was quite and was paralyzed with fear, and something broke in my head. All I wanted to do was be with her, even though this was happening. One day she used my phone and linked her email to it, and that's when I found out she was a Craigslist prostitute. When she was at a friend's house, she's servicing a bunch of dudes, and when I say a bunch it was like 15 to 20 dudes a day. I was so horrified and so fucked up from it, couldn't help to read what the emails were saying. Even after confronting her about, she told me I was an asshole for knowing about it, and at the time, and I was like, let's try to make this work, if that's okay with you. That's how fucked up this whole thing made me. The whole thing scarred me so fucking bad, so I had to break up with her. When I knew I was done with her I didn't realize how much it had all fucked me up till it was over. I was have nightmares and would wake up every few hours scared like someone was standing over me drenched in sweat. Luckily a few months or so after that mess I met some of the sweetest women ever, and they saved from my torment. Yeah, I was fucked up for a while, even after meeting these kind ladies, but they showed me that not all women were as horrible as that monster was. I'm sorry for the long speech. I've never really told my story, and this sub's always filled with good people. Have a great day and be well. I really appreciate this post. This is a very real thing that men experience, maybe not as much as women, but there is still a hell of a lot of stigma around abuse in men and mental health issues. It just goes to show that abuse like this can happen in any form of relationship. I have a friend who does research on prisoners in the Icelandic prison system, and an overwhelming majority of prisoners in our system have been molested as kids or young adults by partners, close friends or relatives. Sexual abuse is so disgusting, and the fact how common it is among men and not discussed is creating subgroups within our society. Probably going to get downvoted or called a liar, but here goes. About 26 years ago I was housemates with my best friend out in the country. He was dating a very abusive woman. Anyway, one day I was getting ready to step out for a smoke, and there she was kicking him repeatedly in the balls as he was laying on the ground. I ran back inside, grabbed the loaded .22 semi-auto rifle, fired one shot in the air and told her to stop. She looked right at me grinning and kicked him again. I shot her in the butt. I then called 911 and told them what happened. Long story short, she had already been informed by the property owner to never come back and did it anyway. It was ruled justified because A, it was private property, and B, it was in the defense of a 3'RD party. Ladies, you may think it's funny kicking men in the groin, but it's not. Not just because how much it hurts, but also because you can kill a man by doing that.